For Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Does he stand by his statement that, quotes, high house prices matter because many New Zealanders spend a large portion of their incomes on housing, and that has helped to fuel household debt and contribute to damaging imbalances in the economy?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes, and that is why 3 years ago we initiated as the first inquiry of the Productivity Commission the issue of housing and housing supply in New Zealand, because we could see that there were significant problems created under the previous Labor government when the housing cycle got out of control. As a result of the Productivity Commission's work, extensive work with local councils, who are the people who make the key decisions in this area, the government is responding with a comprehensive program including increasing land supply, and we look forward to the Labor Party's support for our legislation to achieve this over the next 6 or 8 weeks in this House, reducing the costs and delays of RMA processes, improving the timely provision of infrastructure and lifting the productivity in the construction sector. The government is getting on with the complex, demanding job of improving housing supply when that has not been considered a real issue for the last 20 years in New Zealand.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Does he agree that a capital gains tax targeting speculators in the property market will improve the affordability of owner-occupied housing? If not, why not?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, no, it probably wouldn't make much difference. First, speculators do pay capital gains tax now. The members should look at the tax code, and Inland Revenue are well funded to ensure that they do. And at the moment they're getting about $11 back for every extra dollar that they're putting into compliance. And secondly, as the Productivity Commission pointed out, Australia has a capital gains tax for quite some time. In fact, 3 different regimes, none of which appear to have had any impact on the housing cycle, and their housing is less affordable, even less affordable than New Zealand's.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Well then, does he agree that building an additional 100,000 affordable homes over 10 years would increase supply and dampen the rampant double-digit house price inflation in Auckland, which has been caused by his government's inaction?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, as the member knows, the government has set a target of 39,000 new houses to be built in New Zealand. The difference is, because these will be built by developers and the market, people will want to buy them. The 100,000 built by the Labor Party will make us look like the back end of Moscow.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Paul Goldsmith. Order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. What measures are the government taking to make housing more affordable, and particularly to prevent the economic imbalances caused by fast rising house prices in the mid-2000s?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, well, we learnt from a number of the measures the previous Labor government actually tried to bring in at a time when they were facing rampant house price increases. Most of the measures, though, turned out to be ineffective, and that is why we are focusing strongly on increasing the supply of housing to the market. We agree with the Productivity Commission that said we need to address the underlying driver, which is housing supply. In the budget, we confirmed a housing accord with the Auckland Council. We have introduced and are in the process of passing legislation which will enable councils to make decisions much more quickly, to enable more houses to come into the market in special housing areas. And if councils can't meet the agreed targets, the government retains the ability to issue the consents to build new houses so that we get enough for all New Zealanders to make houses more affordable.
A supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Does he agree that reducing demand by restricting the purchase of second-hand houses to New Zealand citizens and residents would increase the affordability of housing for New Zealanders?
Honourable Bill English.
No, Mr Speaker, we don't. We actually think it's much more important we spend time getting consents for new houses through the RMA than we do checking the passports of the 40% of Aucklanders who were born overseas.
Minister, supplementary.
Supplementary question, Paul Goldsmith.
To the Minister, what reports has he received confirming political support for the use of macro-prudential tools such as loan-to-value ratio restrictions on bank lending for housing?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I've seen two reports. One was published just before the 2000 election and reads, quote, reduced pressure on the exchange rate, 2011 election, reduced pressure on the exchange rate in the export sector by empowering the Reserve Bank with more tools to manage monetary and prudential policy beside the official cash rate. This would include, among other things, loan-to-value ratios. The second report says, quote, we do support loan-to-value ratios. We've been calling them for ages. The first report is from the Greens election manifesto, and the second is from Labour's housing spokesman Phil Twyford. At the time, they didn't make a lot of mention of first-home buyers. In fact, they characterised the government's questioning of macro-prudential tools as, quote, old-fashioned and out of touch. In fact, so they arrived at loan-to-value ratios before we did.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Given that he seems to be denying basic economic supply and demand theory, does he disagree also with the Australian real estate agent on One News last night, who said that if Australia removed its foreign buyer restrictions, house prices in Australia would go up?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the Australian real estate agent probably should have been asked to explain why in the Australian market with capital gains tax and whatever restrictions he's referring to, their houses are more expensive and less affordable than in New Zealand, and that's even with the advantage of much lower construction costs. We're focusing on the single biggest influence, which is getting a supply of houses to the market faster. It's turned out to be a difficult task, a complex one, but one with which our main city councils are now cooperating with the government, and we will put legislation through this House in the next 6 or 8 weeks to enable more New Zealanders to be able to buy houses sooner at lower prices.
Question number 5, Dr Cam Calder.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister for Tertiary Education, Schools and Employment, what steps is the government taking to raise achievement and participation